We've made it to the final capital letter group, and these letters can be a little tricky. Hi, I'm Miss A, and I am an occupational therapist and certified handwriting specialist through Handwriting Without Tears. Now it's called Learning Without Tears. And I help teachers, therapists, parents, or whoever else is helping kids learn how to write to teach them in a way that's systematic and a way that works. I've been a therapist for over 18 years, and I've been working with children and teaching them with great results how to write. I teach seminars, professional development. I've taught at universities, and this is something that's not normally taught because it's just a very small part of occupational therapy. If you'd like some free material, I have worksheets, I have an ebook. Come visit me over in my school classroom. It doesn't cost you anything to join, but if you'd like more support, that is available to you as well. School, SKOOL.com. Before your child or your classroom moves on to lowercase letters, they need to master their capital letters. And this last letter group can be a little different to teach. It could be a little difficult. It still starts from the top, but it starts in the center. So this is the center starting capital letter group. Again, this is following along with the Handwriting Without Tears or Learning Without Tears curriculum, but I'm changing it up just a little bit because I'm an OT and I gotta make it make sense. So we're gonna start with the developmental process of center starting capital letters. We're gonna start with straight lines, then move to curved lines, and lastly, diagonals, because the diagonal is the last to form in the developmental progression. The way I teach is once you get past the lines, those are developmental. That's the first part of the developmental progress. Then we get to the J, which has a little curve in it. Then we get to the magic C. And the magic C is very, very important because that magic C leads to lowercase teaching. So when you make your magic C, you start from the center. But when it comes to the curves, this one to me is a little bit more of a progression. And because we start at 12 o'clock, we're starting that magic C at 12 and ending at the bottom. Later on, we'll get to changing that and moving it just a little bit to start at 2 o'clock. So these letters look a little bit funny, but it's a great way to start for beginning writers. The center starters or the center starting capital letters are T, I, J, C, O, Q, G, S, and A. So the way you write these letters, big line down, little line. And that little line goes across. The letter T, big line down, bump, back up to the top. And this one starts over on that starting corner side, little line. The letter I is a big line down, back over to that starting corner, little line, and to the bottom, little line. Big line down, bump, little line, little line. The letter J, big line down, little curve. Now when you do that, you don't pick up your pencil. Then you cross it at the top. That's where you pick up your pencil. Big line down, little curve. Say hi to the happy face. Little line across. The letter C, center starting, big curve. Big curve to the bottom. The letter O, center starting, big curve, and continue on and close it. That's another big curve, but you don't pick up your pencil. The letter Q. Now this is one of the least written letters in the alphabet, so if you want to leave this one out for now, that's fine. But this is how you do it. Same thing, center starting, the letter Q has a big curve, continues on, close it, and now we go down to the center of that curve and make a little line. So the letter Q is center starting, big curve, close it, drop down, little line. The letter G, capital letter G. Center starting, big curve, little line. The letter S, little curve, swerve down to the bottom, little curve. This is why it gets a little complicated, but with practice, it's fine. You guys got this. You can do it. Don't worry about it. The kids will get it. And if they need a little bit more practice, they can use the wet, dry, try method using the Handwriting Without Tears slate board. You just use that little wet sponge, make sure they wring it out real good, working on their fine motor skills, and go right over that letter and erase the letter. So now they're getting that good motor pattern down because you've already written the letter, and now they can just trace right over it and get ample practice until they're ready for the paper, pencil, or the chalkboard again. This one I say, we're gonna make a curvy snake. Starting center. Now let's air write that S again. Little curve, little curve. And finally, the letter A. Now this one's the last in the developmental sequence because it has diagonal lines. So that's why I teach that one last. Starting at the center. Big line slides down. Back to the top. Big line slides down. In the middle, little line. And those are all of your center starting capital letters. You have made it to the end. We have finished all of our capital letters. We have the frog jump group, we have the corner starting capitals, and we have the center starting capitals. That covers all of the capital letters. Good job. Remember, you can do activities surrounding handwriting. It doesn't have to be specific to the actual letter teaching, but if you have to do that, or when you have to do that, you have the tools. But you can do activities that don't involve paper and pencil. You can do air writing. You can have them write with their bodies. So hands up, hands down. Make it a gross motor activity. You can have them form letters with Play-Doh. You can have children put beads in the Play-Doh. So you're working on their fine motor skills as well as their visual motor skills. One of the reasons why we use a chalkboard is because that chalk gives feedback to the writer. A lot of people are using dry erase, and dry erase is fine because it's easy to use. You can erase it easily, but it is a little slippery and they don't get that feedback. You get more feedback from paper and pencil than you do on a dry erase board. Don't worry. If you're teaching children that are older, go ahead and start with where they are. You don't have to revert all the way back to starting capital letters, but you can revisit those letters, and at least now you have the actual teaching method. Sometimes people want to scrap writing altogether because this is a digital age and they want to go ahead and teach their child typing. That's fine. Go ahead and teach your child typing. But if you're teaching them how to write, you're working so much more than just the actual mere act of writing. You're working with synapses. You're working with brain development. You're working with reading skills. You're working with visual motor and visual perception. Plenty of studies have shown that your brain is creating more synapses when you're doing the act of handwriting versus typing. There's some great websites like typingtest.com, but I still never abandoned handwriting. Now is where we get into the nitty gritty. We're going to learn lowercase letters. So check out my next video where we learn capital partners. Before your child or your class moves on to a blah, 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 blah.